What's up, guys? Today I wanted to revisit another phone that I really like in the used refurbished marketplace is the Galaxy S22. So I want to talk about what I like about this phone, and it has pretty much just one major flaw with it. But what I thought was interesting is that you can find these phone for $239 on eBay right now, and it's actually open box condition. So it's a really these are really good versions, and I think for an unlocked version you're gonna pay like $300 for an unlocked version, and that's on Amazon and eBay. But I just thought that was crazy because watching the price drop on this phone is pretty interesting. To get this type of phone for $239 is pretty nice. So let's go ahead and dive in and see how the S22 is holding up. My favorite thing about this phone, picking it back up, is that it's kind of small like the S10e. Not quite as small, but definitely very easy to one hand, and it just feels really good. It's got these nice curved edges on here, and it's still a very nice looking phone to look at. It's got that camera bump cut out that a lot of people actually liked before Samsung switched over to just getting rid of it completely with the S23. And it's a premium device. It's glass and metal, and it feels really nice in the hand. IP68 dust and water resistant as well too, and overall just a really solid phone to hold. Like I said, even for someone with smaller hands, this is really easy to navigate with. Now the best thing about this phone is still the display on here. It's got very slim bezels on here, and it's overall just a beautiful panel. It's a dynamic AMOLED. It's 6.1 inches, HDR 10 plus, and then it is 120 hertz, of course, and then you also have 1300 nits peak brightness, so it's pretty bright in direct sunlight. And overall just a beautiful display. It's 1080p, it's 425 for the PPI. Like I said, really nice display on here, and overall I had no issues with it. Even just taking it outside and stuff like that in direct sunlight, it still did a fantastic job. So the display is just awesome on this phone, and like I said, really nice screen to body ratio on this display. Just gives that really premium feel. I think the screen to body ratio is, I think it's 87.4%, so it just looks really nice, really sweet. So I can't wait till they get like the full screen displays, because it would be awesome with this type of display being this small, and when you get rid of the punch hole, I think it'll just be, I would easily like main one of these phones if they got rid of the punch hole. But yeah, so overall just a beautiful panel on here. Samsung makes the best panels. Alright guys, the next best thing about this phone is that you have a pretty powerful chipset on here still. It's got the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 on here, and it also has 128 gigs of internal storage, and you also have 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, and you're going to get pretty good performance on here. Now the thing about this phone is that it does seem to get a little bit warmer than I would like. Now I've never had this phone actually crash on me or anything like that, but I did notice that just using it, it does get a little bit warmer. Again, no crashing, but still. And I've tried to really push this thing to try to see if it can crash by doing like intensive stuff, but it never crashes. It just gets kind of uncomfortable if you like push it really hard, like recording a lot of video and stuff like that. There's one thing I did notice. Again, it doesn't really perfect performance. Most people are going to put a case on it so they won't notice, but that is something that I noticed. Especially with the S22 lineup in general, regardless of whether it's S22 Plus or just as S22 Ultra as well, they all seem to get kind of warm. But as far as gaming performance, you can pretty much play anything on here: PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile, Fortnite, whatever you want, and you'll have a pretty good job. And like I said, it gives you a nice compact experience with a beautiful screen on here as well. Here are the Geekbench scores for anybody that wants to compare them. Again, Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, so it's going to do a fantastic job. Now this phone is going to also get Android 14 as well too. It's going to have a pretty long software lifespan as well too, which is really nice. And again, it's a flagship phone, so you're going to have all the flagship features except for the pen support and stuff like that. But Samsung desktop support here, reverse wireless power sharing is here, secure folders, all that good stuff. So everything that you could want. And also when Android 14 comes on this device, we'll actually go ahead and revisit it. But as far as like the overall speed, this phone is super snappy. No issues with performance at all with this guy. It's been a pretty good experience for the most part. The difference between something like an optical fingerprint scanner and the ultrasonic one that you will find in here is that, and I'm trying to tell people with the S23 FE videos, it's a subtle difference, but you will notice it. So with the S22 here, you can just lightly tap it and it'll open up. You don't have to apply pretty much, a whole bunch of pressure like you would on an S23. That's one thing that I really like, and let me show you guys. So here is an example of an optical one. Here's an A34. This is an example of the optical one. You see how I'm tapping it and it's not going? Like I have to apply a little bit of pressure to it. With an ultrasonic one, it's just a light tap. So it's something that, it's not a big deal, right? But it's just a premium feature that I really like. Also, you do have face unlock on here as well too, and the speakers sound pretty good on here. So even if you cover the bottom speaker, the top speaker is still giving you a very good amount of bass. Now, the cameras on the S22 are still fantastic cameras. It's got a 15 megapixel standard. It's also got a 10 megapixel telephoto. It does 3 times optical zoom, all the way up to 30 times for the max zoom. And then you also have a 12 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 8K24 with a 10 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. It still takes flagship quality photos in my opinion. It's really not too far off from the standard S23. I actually did a comparison with those two phones. It's really not that much of a difference. So if you're somebody who takes a lot of photos, you could really just cut corners and just pay, $200, $300 and get this phone, and you're pretty much getting the same kind of photos you would get on a flagship device, a current flagship device like the S23. So the photos look absolutely great dynamic range, great detail, great color. The selfie cam is great, video quality is great. It just takes phenomenal shots, so you don't really have to worry about that. The only thing that you would really be missing out on is probably the crazy zoom that the S23 Ultra has and stuff like that. But again, even comparing this to the S23, I didn't notice a massive improvement. I noticed a little bit of improvement with the zoom shots, but that was pretty much it. I think the average person will be extremely happy with the photos on here. Let's talk about the actual issue with this phone, and that is battery life. It's pretty much going to get the same battery life that you would get on like the Galaxy S10e. That is sort of the issue that these small phones used to suffer. Samsung actually fixed this problem with the S23. The S23 has excellent battery life, really good battery life. They did fix that problem, but with the older, smaller phones, yeah, you're gonna notice I can get around like 4 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time out of this, and that's as a light user. There is one way around it. So if you do buy the phone, you can buy one of these, like a battery case for the phone. So when you're out and you run out of juice, you can just sort of like charge it up and do it like that, and then that pretty much, it'll solve your battery problem if you're like more of a heavier user. But yeah, even as a light user, this phone is going like 4:30 to 5 hours max, which is not technically a full day's of battery use. Full day is like 6 hours, 6 hours and 30 minutes. That'll typically get people through a full day, but this is a phone that you definitely are gonna have to charge. So the battery in this one is 3,700 milliamps. It's got a max 25 watt charging, and you have the wireless and reverse wireless charging on here as well too. But like I said, besides the battery life, there's really nothing wrong with this phone. It's actually just extremely good buy if you do get it for this discount, especially if you get it locked to AT&T, the AT&T one on eBay. That I think is a steal, because you just spend the extra $30 and get the battery case. But even if you get it unlocked for $300, it's kind of it's a decent deal. I have some phones that I would probably get like the I could go even if you want like a smaller phone like this, because it depends. If you want a smaller phone like this is still a really good option. So it's kind of tough. But you could get like a Pixel, but those are still going to be a little bit more expensive. There are some phones for $300. I might actually put out another list about that. Newer phones that you can get, but this is kind of a phone in the unique spot because it's, last year's phone, flagship phone that you can get for, roughly $200-300. So it's a phone that I really like. So be sure to let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I would definitely buy it and just put the battery case on it, and then the problem's really solved. So let me know what you guys think.